On a savanna where the sun is never kind, a lone hyena faces her enemies, hunger, and her own destiny. Between blood, fear, and survival instinct, can an outcast rewrite her destiny with her own blood? The Hyena Queen. The tragedy of the outcast. Dawn covers the Serengeti in gold. The morning mist melts in the heat, revealing cracked earth and burnt yellow bushes stretching to the horizon. The wind carries the smell of dry mud and the lingering fishy smell of the night's hunt. In the vast sea of Serengeti grass, Sira walks alone. No longer the hoarse laughter of her kind, only the dry wind whistling through each withered blade of grass. Her shadow stretches across the cracked ground, blending into the burnt yellow of the sunset. Each step leaves a small trail of blood, quickly drying in the dust. Overhead, vultures circled silently, as if the whole sky was watching the one who had been naturally removed from existence. In that tired gaze, there were no tears, only the survival instinct of an abandoned hyena trying to move on in a world that had turned its back. In the quiet space of the grassland, another scent seeped into the air of the soil. The smell of raw meat, the smell of blood, and the smell of fear. Sira's ears twitched slightly, her eyes quickly scanning the sea of yellow grass. Then, from afar, slender black shadows began to appear silently, smoothly, almost not touching the ground. A pack of African wild dogs. They moved in a line, orderly and precise, like an organized storm. They lowered their heads, their eyes sharp as knives, gradually closing the encirclement. Between them and the hyena, there was not only hatred, but history. For thousands of years of evolution, these two species have shared the same territory, both aiming for the same prey, but only one is allowed to eat it. The hyenas are stronger, more ferocious, and many times more cunning. They follow the pack of wild dogs hunting, waiting until the prey is exhausted, then pounce on it and rob it. The whole pack of wild dogs runs away in despair, leaving their achievements to the next comers with barbaric laughter. From then on, the scent of the hyenas became a signal to awaken the instinct of revenge in every wild dog. And today, Sira carries that scent all over her body. The scent of hyena blood, the scent of the queen's pride, the thing that the wild dogs despise and hate the most. Sira stood still, her legs trembling slightly, but her eyes did not lower. She clearly understood what was waiting for her, and this time, there was no one left to save her. The air thickened. The wild dogs had closed the circle. "20 pairs of golden eyes glowed in the sunlight, reflecting Sira's lonely silhouette in the sea of grass. They immediately rushed to attack. Then another roar rang out. Low, heavy, and deep like thunder. The entire steppe held its breath. The grass shook, and from the edge of the light, a male lion stepped out. His mane was dark golden, his eyes glowing in the sunset, each step making the ground tremble slightly. The pack of wild dogs immediately stopped. One of them hissed in warning, then the pack gradually retreated, tails drooping. For a brief moment, no one moved. Then, with the instinct of a weak survivor, Sira seized the opportunity. She rose, limped toward the light, and disappeared among the tall grass. The pack of wild dogs dispersed. The lion roared softly, then turned back. The evening wind blew. Under the fiery sunset, Sira was still moving, breathing heavily. But she was alive, and for the Serengeti, survival meant declaring war on fate. The midday sun was blazing. The air was thick with heat. The ground was cracked. Wisps of steam rose up, distorting the steppe like a mirage. On a sea of dry, yellow grass, Sira trudged slowly. Her body was emaciated, her spotted fur ragged, each breath carrying the taste of sand and dried blood. Hunger made each step heavy as if carrying stones, but in those eyes, there was still the light of an unyielding hyena's instinct. In the distance, the ground shook slightly. A herd of wildebeest was moving across the plains, hundreds of them following each other like a living stream. They were symbols of the savanna, resilient and powerful creatures, carrying within them the greatest migratory instinct of Africa. Muscle bodies, thick necks, large heads, and sickle-shaped horns, each thrust could break the enemy's chest. They were numerous, alert, and always protected each other in tight packs. Sira stopped, her eyes locked on a stray calf at the edge of the herd, weaker, clumsier, and the only chance in this barren hell. She lowered her body, moving close to the ground, each step as light as a shadow, the only advantage she had left. The distance shortened. The battle between hunger and the horned giant ensued. They both fell, rolling in the red dust. She lay there, exhausted, then began to eat slowly, fiercely, instinctively. In the blazing sun, the image of her prey fell reflected, and in her eyes, the fear had disappeared, leaving only the gaze of a true hunter. In the Serengeti, the outcast does not die of loneliness, but when they stop fighting. And Sira, the hyena once erased from her pack, had just rewritten the definition of survival with the blood of wildebeest. The Serengeti sun stood high in the white sky. A hot wind swept through, carrying dust and the smell of old flesh. In the parched plains, Sira rested in the shade of an acacia bush. Her spotted fur was covered with red dust. Her eyes were half closed, but her breathing was heavier and faster than usual. In the dry air, another scent wafted, the scent of the breeding cycle, a signal that nature never missed. From afar, a strange male hyena appeared. His body was lean but solid, his dark gray fur mottled with scars, his eyes bright and alert. He belonged to no pack, a marginal being, like Sira herself. The two of them, left in this world, faced each other, silent but aware of the instincts that guided them. There was no growling, no threat. Only the urge to survive, of the bloodline needing to continue. They rubbed, circled each other, the sunlight reflecting off the dry, powerful movements in the burnt yellow grass. The mating was fast, fierce, and instinctive, the way nature operated coldly and precisely. When the male left, Sira did not look back. She knew that in the world of hyenas, the female was the only one responsible for life. From this moment on, she would face alone what normally only the pack shared. As time passed, Sira's belly grew heavier. With no territory, no nest. She had to dig a shallow hole in the dry thorn roots to give birth. The sun burned, dust rose, and in the scorching heat, cramps made her body tremble. There was no call, no help, only endurance and maternal instinct. Then, in the dry heat of the afternoon, a small cry rang out. From under the sandy soil, a small creature emerged, still weak, its legs trembling for warmth. Under the harsh sun of the Serengeti, she had crossed the border between life and death alone to give birth to her next. The dry grass shook in the heat, and Sira lay quietly beside the shallow hole where her little one curled up and slept. The baby's breathing was weak but steady, each rise and fall on its still trembling belly. Sira looked at it for a long time, her eyes both proud and unfamiliar with the feeling of being a mother, something she had never thought of when she was banished from the flock. It seemed she was thinking of her mother, Queen Kali. She remembered her mother's eyes, a gaze that could make others bow their heads, but also looked at her with a rare warmth. When she was little, Sira used to nestle under Kali's belly, listening to her mother's strong heartbeat mixed with the sound of the wind and the vultures circling above. At that time, she believed that her mother was immortal. Now, in the blazing sun, Sira gently bent down to lick her child's forehead. That gesture was exactly like Kali's in the past, the instinct of the queen's bloodline passed down, whether she wanted it or not. Sira's eyes were distant. She understood that somewhere on the steppe, Kali was still alive, still ruling, still making all creatures tremble when they heard her loud laughter. But between them now was an ocean of dry grass, red dust, and hatred. Sira was no longer the weak child hiding behind her mother's shadow. She was someone who had known pain, known loss, and now knew the meaning of giving birth to another life in solitude. The afternoon slowly fell over the Serengeti. The sun gradually tilted over the acacia trees, dyeing the sea of yellow grass a dark red like dried blood. The air was still, only the hot wind blew, carrying the smell of burnt earth and the lingering smell of death. In the middle of the dry, cracked field, Sira lay next to her cub in the thin shade of an acacia tree. She was exhausted after many days of survival, but her eyes were still on guard. And the scent of the hunter came, heavy as a sign of fate. From afar, in the midst of the hazy pink dust, the lion appeared. Each step was slow but steady, its golden eyes fixed on the cub, a symbol of primitive power, of approaching death. There was no way back. Dry collisions rang out. The lion retreated, panting, looking down at the small body lying motionless at its feet. It left, its shadow gradually fading into the red sunset. Sira took a long, deep, heavy breath, and then everything stopped. She had completed her final role, a mother, a person who had been abandoned. But in that death, she won what even the ruler could not take away, the right to protect her own flesh and blood. The sunset covered her entire body like the arms of the Serengeti closing, preserving the wordless story between maternal love and survival instinct. Because in the world of hyenas, where blood replaces tears, a mother's love is not measured by the time she lives, but by the moment she chooses to die, so that her child can breathe one more time. Queen Kali walked slowly, her eyes glowing red from the sunset reflecting on her child's body. Her ears twitched slightly, her head lifted slightly, her eyes looking into the distance. She heard a small sound, almost lost in the wind, a young, weak, but familiar cry. Kali turned to look at it. Her deep, black eyes sparkled just like Sira's when she was a child. She bowed her head low, gently licking the mud off the little one's fur, a sacred act that only a mother would do for her own flesh and blood. She carried the cub in her mouth, carrying it, each step heavy but sure. The sun gradually disappeared behind the horizon, dragging the long shadow of the queen and her little grandchild on the cracked ground. Kali's shadow was bold against the blood-red sunset. A queen who had once punished, now returned to being a mother and the last protector of the bloodline she had lost. On the steppe, every cycle of survival begins with loss. And as darkness gradually engulfs the horizon, a new storm is forming, a storm of revenge. Will Queen Kali keep her throne with reason, or let the flames of hatred lead her to an even more brutal war? Stay tuned for the next part to discover the new chapter in the hyena's journey of survival. And don't forget to ring the bell. Subscribe to not miss the next wildlife survival series.